these younger generations that you referenced celebrated different materials, different things. Like rather than try to pretend it's leather, luxury can be more than one thing.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate that it's different. Like, does it have to perform as well as leather? Hell yeah. But can it be different than leather? Absolutely.
Hi, and welcome to Handbag Designer 101, the podcast with your host, Emily Blumenthal, handbag industry expert and the handbag fairy godmother. Each week, we uncover the stories behind the handbags we love, from the iconic brands and top designers to the creativity, craftsmanship, and culture that define the handbag world. Whether you're a designer, collector, or simply passionate about handbags, this is your front row seat to it all. Welcome, Elise Winer of 𝐸𝐴𝐻 to Handbag Designer 101, the podcast. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a lucky overlap because I get pitched so often from people, industry people. And when I was looking what 𝐸𝐴𝐻 did, and I said, oh my God, this is a fortuitous email that came through my inbox, because I said, this is something so many more people need to know about. Do you want to just go straight into what 𝐸𝐴𝐻 is, and then we can back into how it works and so forth? Because it's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So 𝐸𝐴𝐻 is a UK-based sustainable materials manufacturer. And the company has been around since 2007. And they take leather waste that's bound for landfill at the tanning stage. So when leather hides are tanned, they actually take on this blue color called wet blue. And because of irregularities in the hide or kind of the end application needs for that hide, a good portion of the hide actually traditionally goes to landfill because it can't be used for the end application. We at 𝐸𝐴𝐻 rescue that leather waste, and we've rescued over 10,000 tons of wet blue leather waste since the company's origination. And what we do is, through a patented technology process, we break that waste down to the fiber level and then use the power of super high pressured water to re-entangle those fibers back together, resulting in almost like a recycled leather hide that can then be finished and processed and used for applications like mass transportation seating. But in our discussion today, really a focus on consumer leather goods, handbags, accessories, and footwear. And because the company's been around for so long, they've created an incredible state-of-the-art manufacturing facility that has the capacity to manufacture 6 million square meters of this recycled material to really meet the needs of some really large brand partners that we've brought on in that consumer category in the past couple of years, which include Coach, Doc Martens, as well as investment from the parent company of Coach, Tapestry, Doc Martens themselves, and then Jaguar Land Rover's investment arm, InMotion Ventures. So we're expanding into these kind of consumer and automotive categories after having been for close to 15 years supplying recycled leather material to the aviation and mass transportation seating space. So very exciting time in the company, and just a really cool material that today uses that kind of wet blue leather waste. But what we're working on right now is actually taking finished leather waste, either at the factory floor level or at the end of a product's life cycle, back through the exact same process to create fully circular recycled leather material, which is truly like the holy grail as it relates to circularity in the kind of sustainable materials category.
Oh my God, so many questions. And just quietly, you sound like you have told this many, many times. So
well, I used to be an investor, so I'm used to hearing pitches and now giving pitches. So yeah, it's in my DNA, I guess.
That leads me to another question. Considering you were on the investor side, was this strange to go to the client side? And what kind of adjustments did you have to make? Because, you know, my background 100 million years ago was in media. And I really, really wanted to get to the sales side because I saw they were the fun ones. They got to do things. They got to be innovative, as opposed to, okay, now what? And a very wise woman said to me, who was at ESPN, she took me to lunch. I will never forget this. And she said, you would never open a open up a clothing store if you did not know how to shop.
A
So,
really good point. I love
yeah, it's really funny. I'm like, I know how to shop. She's like, no, no, shop specifically for your client, for your customer, for your demographic. So was it an odd transition? All of a sudden being like, oh, wait a second, I perhaps don't have the resources I had before, or you're working under constraints that you didn't have before.
Totally. Yeah, I think, so my background is as a marketer in kind of material science space, right? Running marketing for startups, mostly in the Boston area. And I joined the world of venture capital because one of the chairmen of the board of one of those companies actually was starting his own fund. And he said to me, I totally see your process. You love joining a company and building a brand and launching product for the first time. And then you get bored and you move on to the next startup and want to do it all over again. What if you could do that in a more scalable way across a portfolio of investments? Traditionally at Material Impact, which was the venture fund that I came from, we had invested in extremely early stage companies that typically are like, and you come from the professorship world, these are like postdoc PhDs out of, leading universities that have an incredible technology, but have no idea how to develop a business.
Those are the scary ones.
Go to market strategy, or, really think about product market fit and build a position in the marketplace and a brand for the first time. And so I was almost an atypical venture partner in that I really was operational in these companies. I would jump in, serve as interim CMO, get the brand off the ground, hire my replacement, and move on to the next company. So when Jen Phoenix came along, and this was in an area that I was extremely passionate about, had been looking at kind of the leather alternative, sustainable material alternative market for quite some time in the fashion and footwear space. And we were looking at all kinds of really incredible technologies, but most of them were very early stage and unable to really meet kind of the price and the performance and the scale requirements of big brands, right? When you have something at a lab scale, it can be super exciting, but that there's a whole host of challenges that come with trying to scale it up to be price competitive, to be performance competitive to the market. And what have we learned? Consumers will not pay a green premium. Like, they will not pay more for a more sustainable product. So it was like clean tech, 1.0, the bubble burst. What was it in the early 2000s? Yeah. Because it was like, you could have this product, it's greener, but it doesn't work as well. It's going to cost you more. It's just never going to work. So Jen Phoenix came along and they had to enter the market creating a material that they weren't selling a sustainability story when they came into the market. They had to compete on price and performance because at the time, particularly in the aviation category, sustainability was not front and center in decision-making for materials for seating. It had to last a long time. It had to be lightweight. It had to perform and stand up to the rigors of 24/7 wear and tear and use. Because the material performed so well and was priced so competitively, it became the market leader in the category.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt, do you think the man who invented this product, this process, understood the business to price it correctly? Because with all the designers and all the small businesses and so many brands I've worked with, it's fascinating that so many create this incredible product, but because they've priced it incorrectly, or they don't understand that in order to be competitive, that they need to work on a smaller margin, which most brands don't want to or don't know how to. So I find it intriguing that the said inventor knew how to do that. And, if you're getting all of these skins and they need to be made into one sheet, because when leather is sold, it's sold per square foot.
That's right.
When you buy other materials, it's sold based on yards. So one's a skin, like an animal, and one is something that's been manufactured. So that is a fascinating process, because if you're doing something hypothetically for automotive or for airplanes, there can't be any deficiencies within the skin. So this is a really interesting process, because how would one know how to compare prices? Like, Are you comparing it to
Yes.
PU? Are you comparing it to square feet on leather?
Right.
Like this is, how do you look up a word if you don't know how to spell it?
Right. Well, and I think there's a lot of different factors that come into pricing. At the end of the day, though, our philosophy is the material has to be price neutral to the consumer and margin neutral to the brand. It's a non-starter otherwise. And so, but if you look at, there are certain elements of our product that add a lot of value to what the incumbent solutions are. So we're sold on a roll. And so if you think about the operational efficiencies of dealing with materials that are on a roll versus traditional leather, you're dealing with less waste. There's kind of some operational improvements that go with processing a roll versus hides, right? But also, I think when we entered the market and our inventor, Chris Bevan, really, decided to go after the aviation seating market, when we entered, we had to offer something above and beyond what existed today. And at the time, there was leather and fabric. That was it. Mm-hmm. Today, you see all kinds of, to your point, PU, synthetics, right, in the marketplace. But at the time, those were the only two solutions. And it was almost like I think Chris Bevan saw all this waste in the world. Like there's value, there's beauty, there's utility in this leather fiber that's just being thrown into landfill. How do we harness, leather is an incredible, sustainable, durable product because it lasts so long, right?
Can I ask you a question though?
Yeah.
Within all of the leather wastes, right?
Yeah.
Like cow has a pebble grain. It's obviously much bigger. Lamb is softer and much more lightweight. Then once you mix it up to goat, even ostrich or camel, how are you able, and again, obviously this is proprietary. I'm just intrigued as a brand owner designer, as someone who would potentially have other people listening that would want to be part of this. How are they able to merge skins together of different animals? Is that done?
We only work with bovine leather.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
okay.
There's
cow
a bit
for
of
the win.
Yeah, cow for the win. And I think, obviously you need to, with any sort of technology like this, you have to kind of be able to control your input to control your output, if you will. So yeah, there's obviously our technology has the capability to fiberize, like anything that can be fiberized, we can create material from. So we've actually experimented with plant-based feedstocks, textile waste. If it can be broken down to the fiber level, we can create a base material out of it, which is really while all those partners I mentioned who come in as investors are so excited about us, is we don't, today we work on recycled wet blue leather waste, but tomorrow we can take back a Coach handbag, a Doc Martens boot when it's no longer needed and give it as many lives as possible because it can be put through the exact same process. And that full circularity story is what's really exciting. But at the end of the day, that product, the recycled wet blue product, the aviation seating material, it's got to stand up to all the performance specifications.
Right.
Got to be priced competitively so you're not paying a premium for something like us. Right. And it has to offer not just like an incremental sustainability benefit, but a major sustainability win for the brand. So our material is at least 80% lowered carbon footprint than traditional leather. And it's made from waste. So if you think of ESG commitments that are really focused on waste mitigation and also carbon reduction, we're helping brands who adopt our material at scale. And the key to unlocking scale was that price and performance that I described, really make progress towards our goals and in some case hit their goals because they can integrate our material with such confidence.
If you ever wanted to start a handbag line and didn't know where to start, this is for you.
Living proof that independent designers can make it big.
Absolutely. Blumenthal is one prime example.
If you had dreams of becoming a handbag designer and didn't know where to start, this is for you. If you have a handbag brand and are in need of strategy and direction, this is for you. I'm Emily Blumenthal, handbag fairy godmother and handbag designer expert, and this is Handbag Designer 101, the masterclass. Over the next 10 classes, I will break down everything you need to know how to make, market, and manufacture a handbag. broken down for you that you'll not only skip steps in that handbag building process, but also save money in that learning curve. For the past 20 years, I've been teaching at the top fashion universities in New York City, created the Handbag Awards, and also the Handbag Designer 101 podcast. I'm going to show you like I have countless brands from sketch to sample to shelf, whether you're just starting out and don't know where to begin, or even if you have a handbag line and just need some strategic direction, the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass is just for you. So let's get started, and you will be the creator of the next It Bag. Join me, Emily Blumenthal, with the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass.
So I know you had mentioned Coach/Coachtopia. You know, the funny thing about that is that it didn't seem like it was new when it came out. It's like, well, this has been around for ages, but it hasn't. And
Yeah.
I think, and when I spoke to Todd Kahn, aka Coach Captain, Coach King, whatever.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, Coach Captain, call him that. You can make a note. TM. He had said to me, we are so laser focused on this 17-year-old, 16-year-old customer. And I've had some interesting guest speakers who, interestingly enough, recently said that the junior in high school is the plum target because they still have enough decision-making capability. They're creating their own trends, because by the time they become seniors, their minds are so focused on trying to become an iteration of a new person. So
I love that.
And it's really interesting. But in taking this material, especially the tabby, which made a huge comeback being on Bella Hadid, which my students said that was the hook as to getting everybody back interested in the brand. And I completely agree with you that nobody cares about sustainability to pay a premium for it. The brands that I've consulted for, I've said, do your best. Try to have one product within your assortment that's potentially sustainable that you can speak to and then say that it's part of your mission. It's interesting, though, within Coachtopia, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is pieces of leathers kind of woven together. Patchwork. No, it's not. It's not.
In some cases it is. And in some cases, so Coachtopia integrated our recycled leather material across its entire range.
So no bag is the same.
No, I mean, the bags there is consistencies across the collection. We are found as the liner material throughout the entire collection. So that's a hydro-entangled recycled leather product, right? That's not like scraps woven together. That's our kind of regenerated circular leather product. And that was like step one in working with Coachtopia was the perfect platform because it's like an incubator within Coach. Their whole motto is progress over perfection. Like, let's try new materials, let's try new design philosophies, and let's get things out into the market and learn, and then take those learnings and pass them over the fence to the larger Coach brand, which is exactly what we did with Coachtopia. That product, which is the liner, is uncoated. We had never made an uncoated version of our product, right? Because it's soft and it has like that suede kind of supple texture to it. We'd never done anything like that. And in under a year, we collaborated with Coach to create this material that would be found across the entire Coach range. What I loved, or the Coachtopia range, what I loved about Coachtopia and what they learned was that these younger generations that you referenced celebrated different materials, different things. Like, rather than try to pretend it's leather, luxury can be more than one thing. Yeah. Let's celebrate that it's different. Like, does it have to perform as well as leather? Hell yeah. But can it be different than leather? Absolutely. And that was a really important learning that I've seen a lot of brands who are embracing sustainability now are trying to learn. I think in the past it was, let's just swap it in and not tell people about it.
Yeah.
And now it's, let's call it something different. Let's show you how it's made. Let's celebrate its uniqueness. One of the unforeseen things we learned through our Doc Martens collaboration and our collaboration with Coach is our material just like takes very well to printing and embroidery, even better than leather. We never like really anticipate, and it's lighter weight.
Right.
So there's certain design opportunities that are opened up because the material is different that designers are excited about and want to run with. And it's those styles that are leading with this is new and this is innovation and this is different and this opens up design possibilities.
Right.
Oh, and guess what? It also happens to be sustainable. That is the unlock we found in exciting younger generations who are very much aligned with values around sustainability, but still want something new, different, special, and innovative. And so today, what we've launched, Todd and I launched at CES, is a material that we call New Gen, which will now be an outer material for Coach bags. And that is going to be hit stores in the fall of 2025, so just around the corner. And it will be different than leather. It has a name that's different from leather. It's New Gen. It's a new generation of material.
And it's proprietary to Coach/you.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But as Todd says, I mean, Todd will say it, and he said, obviously we want a head start, but we hope the industry adopts and embraces this new material because it's so exciting. It enables us to really make a dent on climate change and really kind of find solutions for, decarbonization as it relates to the leather industry.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach is a leather legacy brand. They're not moving away from leather.
Correct.
They're just supplementing their portfolio with materials that they feel, appeal to younger generations of, very eco-conscious customers who are just open to embracing new things.
I mean, obviously, I love this and I'm smitten with this and what it is and what it represents. And I'm not surprised that Coach was the pioneer of this. Yeah, it's very interesting because obviously, like people say, nobody's shopping, retail is dead, but retail is just different. People are shopping differently. To the point we had discussed earlier, the number one bag you can find at any thrift store or vintage shop is an old Coach bag because that baseball mitt leather will last a lifetime, almost to Coach's detriment that they would render themselves no one needing a new bag. And I know they're going back to their archives in terms of silhouettes and so forth. I think this is really exciting to see how this is being integrated into the brand, into the handbag world, especially with Coach. And I love that there will be a new material. Just to confirm, because you said so, New Gen is for Coach only, or other people will then theoretically have access to New Gen?
Well, New Gen and the name and like the material that we co-created for Coach obviously is exclusive to Coach for a period of time, but we are working with other partners and other brands on collaborating with them to create recycled leather solutions for their own leather goods and accessories and footwear applications. So we make recycled leather. The version of our recycled leather that we collaborated on with Coach is for Coach, but there are other versions of that recycled leather that we collaborate on with other brand partners.
Can I ask you a stupid question? Once people purchase the raw materials, they are the ones who then dye it or stamp on it or embroider it. You don't do anything. You supply the material, off you go. No?
It actually depends. So like in the case of Doc Martens, we actually finish the material in-house. We have finishing capabilities because, as I'm sure you can imagine, in transportation, we've had to finish all of those materials. Right. But we also have kind of collaborated with tanneries and other channel partners in the ecosystem who might have expertise in different finishing capabilities. And we found that that's, we are fiber science, circular materials experts. We are not finishing experts in the way that, tanneries who've been doing this kind of work for decades are. So, we are very open to partnerships to be able to kind of, go and experiment with all different types of finishing capabilities. But we do have the capability in-house as well. So what's really cool is we really do own like our full supply chain, and it's all based in the UK, which is in today's world, a great competitive benefit that we probably never foresaw. But we also are open to having partners finish our material as well. It's almost like we ship the hide, if you will, the recycled hide that can be finished and processed in the same way that a leather hide can.
This is so interesting. Real quick, is this one of these things though, and we had spoken about it with other brands reaching out and saying, okay, we want to develop something specific to us, or this is our brand's DNA. I assume that's part of what your marketing strategy is, to make this democratizing this material per se, to make it available for people who want to try. And, like, it's very interesting if you talk to people who know or think they know, because PU or PVC, polyvinyl chloride, and everybody calls it vegan leather. And anybody who deals with leather knows there's nothing really vegan about it. It's chemically made.
Yeah, it's plastic.
It is plastic. And over time, the raw materials of whatever's left either must be burned, or it goes into a landfill, or it becomes corroded, and, whatever gases, blah, 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 come from that. And I applaud, obviously, what Regen is doing. I just have one more question in terms of, have you received any pushback? Because, and the only reason why I'm asking that, because there have been so many companies globally that have tried to make leather out of like oranges, apples, potatoes, mushrooms, and prickly pear, and I'd say banana skins. I'm not really sure. It's like a fruit salad, and obviously the fronds of the pineapple. And anybody who thinks they can make a product exclusively with that is completely misinformed, because you will need a glue, you will need something interior. There must be something to hold that bag together.
That's right.
And
that's right.
I have found that a lot of people are kind of moving away from those unique materials because it's cute, but it's just not enough to move the needle to develop a collection that's sustainable, truly sustainable.
Yeah, and as now putting my investor hat on, that was something we were seeing. I think even if you look back 2 years ago, there was an explosion of vegan, plant-based leather alternatives hitting the market with a lot of exciting potential. Unfortunately, a number of those startups and technologies shut down because of an inability to scale. That doesn't mean that space doesn't hold a ton of potential and promise as it continues to become more kind of price and performance competitive. But the reason I think we saw these capsule collections, or a one-off handbag, right, or a one-off shoe, was because it was too expensive and it fell apart, or it just wasn't able to kind of, meet the performance expectations of the customer or the brand itself. And that's where that whole price performance planet equation is, super important. I think another big learning is, and one that we've really, I think, successfully demonstrated with this Coachtopia to Coach collaboration, is brands, particularly leather brands, like they do things a very specific way. They're steeped in heritage, and this is how you create product and get it to market. When you introduce innovation, something new, it's very disruptive to the season over season process of designing and manufacturing product in the market. So, I think the fact that at Coach we had this Coachtopia incubation model where we started with a liner, right? We didn't start with the outer. In some cases, we work with brands who are interested in like, okay, let's start with trim, or let's start with this component of a shoe, right? So it's like we get to know each other, we're working together, we're testing something. And then that allows brands to have the confidence to, once they've recognized that the material stands up and can be competitive and can be embraced by consumers, which we're really excited to have seen happen now with Coachtopia and with Doc Martens. All right, now we're ready to go full steam ahead, right? So Doc Martens, we started with 3 styles. Now we're on our 4th season with them, and every season has grown exponentially. And so I think it's like there's a start small and work together, get outside your normal development cycle, embrace, and having buy-in and sponsorship from the top. Like you're seeing Todd, Captain Todd, on stage and talk about this and why it's important and meaningful for the future of the business and the brand.
Right.
You need that. If this goes, you really need that kind of that buy-in and support. And I think the last ingredient has been, we opened our factory doors to these partners and they opened the doors of their factories. Like we worked shoulder to shoulder with them on getting the material right. We're, like I said, we're the fiber science experts. They're the leather experts. We had to take a transportation product and evolve it to have the hand feel and the body and the suppleness of a luxury leather good. That was like what I call kind of like the last mile innovation that had to happen before this could actually go into the marketplace. If we had just passed our material over the fence to Coach, and it would have never gotten to the point where it is. So it's true partnership that really unlocks innovation in the sustainable materials category, but it's hard. It's hard to do it. It's outside of the typical design cycle, but it can be done. And now we have a blueprint for doing it, and we're bringing that to other brands because, you know, they see this success story of Coach and they want to embrace that for themselves.
I mean, this is such a similar story to how 𝐉𝐸 made it to handbags, but not the same because 𝐉𝐸 became like a little bit toxic, a little bit heavy, the whole thing. But if you look at any 𝐉𝐸 bag, it's still around because it came from leftover materials from World War II. Go figure.
Wow.
I know. Everything's circular.
Exactly.
Elise, thank you so much for joining us today. How can we find you, follow you, get more information about this product?
Sure. Yeah. Just, visit 𝐷enPhoenix.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn under Elise Winer. But we're really excited to speak with brands who are, looking for sustainable alternatives and excited about the scale and the performance and the price capabilities of 𝐷enPhoenix. And thank you, Emily, for the time. It's a pleasure, as always, speaking with you. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm a super fan. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review and follow us on every single platform at Handbag Designer. Thanks so much. See you next time.